So if I could, part of the challenge of where we are right now is that the National Security Council has been significantly downgraded in terms of its staffing, its scope, its reach. We are reinvesting significantly in our military, which I think is a positive. We've had some fundamental restructuring in terms of our development program. USAID is gone, and a number of its key programs like the global media enterprise are either gone or being restructured. I'll just posit that I think our greatest strength in terms of pushing back on China's illegal and coercive, aggressive, and deceptive behavior is our full spectrum, all of government, all of society approach, our economic power, and our alliances. And you had a conversation earlier with Senator Cornyn about Australia. I led a bipartisan CODEL to the U.S.-Australia leadership dialogue in Adelaide in the summer, and was really struck at how uniformly the Australians are seized with the challenge of China, have significant reach in the region, in Papua New Guinea and the Pacific Island nations, in terms of development, defense, diplomacy, and are a great partner. I'd be interested in two things. Dr. Ratner, I was intrigued by your proposal in a recent Foreign Affairs article about a defense collective pact or a deterrence pact between the U.S., Australia, Japan, and the Philippines, and I'd love it if you'd expound on that a little bit more. And if you would, Mr. Powell, Mr. Singleton, how would you rebuild the capacity for a coordinated, focused engagement around resiliency for Taiwan and alliance coordination around ensuring a free and open Indo-Pacific? We've got a scattered range of capabilities. The Development Finance Corporation, whose authorization has expired and can't do new deals. We've got USTR, which is engaged in trade. We've got USTDA. These are all independent agencies. We've got the Foreign Commercial Service. We used to have in USAID development entities focusing on economic strength. In the State Department, there's an economic bureau. How would you pull all of this together? Would you create a new agency? Would you come up with a coordinated approach, and if so, led by whom? How do we get the strategy, the focus, and the leadership to deliver on leaning in to our alliances, economic development, and our soft and hard power capabilities, which in coordination should be enough to deter China. But when disaggregated and discoordinated and discombobulated and defunded, I think are issuing an open invitation to increase coercion by China. Dr. Ratner, if you would first on the collective pact and then the other two. Forgive me for the very long question.
Well, thank you, Senator Coons. The proposal that I had put forward was for a Pacific Defense Pact, a collective defense pact between the United States, Australia, Japan, and the Philippines. The rationale for it is, look, the defining national security question of our time is how we prevent PRC aggression in the Western Pacific in their ambitions to revise the Indo-Pacific order and the international order. The consequences of that, as you well know, would be terrible for the United States and terrible for the world. If we do that as a team sport with our allies and partners, it will, number one, be more effective, and number two, come at lower cost and lower risk to U.S. forces. It is a win-win for the United States. We have great alliances with those three countries. We have good partnerships around the region, but those alliances are not connected with each other. And the question before us then is, how do we make the whole greater than the sum of the parts as it relates to our alliances, and how do we create structures so that we can actually operate together, deter together, fight together as necessary? And the fact of the matter is, whether we like it or not, today we are not prepared to fight as a collective with our allies and partners. We do not have the command and control we need. We do not have the plans we need. We do not have the force posture we need. We are not operating together in the way that we need to. So we need institutions that bring together these countries to get prepared in that fashion. And what I put forward was a proposal to do exactly that.
Well, thank you. I was struck at Indo-PACOM at the senior level at which Australian military flag officers are integrated into the Indo-PACOM, both planning and command and control. And I do think the Japanese have stepped up dramatically in terms of their defense investment and defense posture. And Korea over the last decade has steadily increased its posture, but I couldn't agree more. It's not coordinated. and it doesn't have interlocking security. Mr. Powell, if I might,
Yeah.
Mr. Chairman.
Senator Coons, thank you. On your question of coordination, how to build essentially the institution, I think we have to start domestically, in part because, I mean, right now, the way that we are putting out policy, geopolitics is just, it seems to be kind of a minor part of the overall understanding of, so we have things coming out of Treasury and Commerce and all kinds of different parts of the government that seem to be disaggregated from the larger strategic problems. And so I do think that there needs to be somebody at a very senior level whose job it is to think about these things and how they are working toward victory, or at least, competing in this space. A second, on the question of whether we should build new agencies or repurpose the ones that we have, I think, right now, as many things have been defunded or even dismantled, the question being, whether we're talking about USAID or USAGM or any of these things, recognizing that there actually was an intent behind those things, however well it was being carried out. And maybe taking this moment to say, well, how do we either build something new or repurpose this thing so that it is fighting this fight that we're in right now? Because the idea of, okay, we don't like this tool in the toolbox, so we're just going to remove it. Well, yeah, but what are we going to put back in the toolbox? Because maybe the new problem, the old tool didn't fit very well, so let's make a new tool. Or even if we can just clean up the old tool and make it work better. And then finally, I hate to be a one-note Nancy on this, but I really do think that transparency has, and again, this idea of assertive transparency has a lot to be said for it, because it is the thing that helps build democratic resilience. If you look at the Philippines, where were they before they began their assertive transparency program in early 2023? Their primary strategy was built around the problem of counterterrorism. They were basically asleep to what was happening in the West Philippine Sea. Where are they today? Their people are motivated. They're holding their lawmakers accountable. They've completely remade their strategy, so it's focused on archipelagic defense. They are investing in their Coast Guard, in their Navy, in their Air Force, and they are reaching out to a lot of allies and making their own allies and partners. They're extremely aggressively putting together, and they're doing this because in a democracy, you need the support of the people, and in order to get the support of the people, you have to show them why, and that's what they've done.
Thank you, Senator, for the question. I think the first step is we have to articulate our desired end states in the region, which we haven't done. And then you have to catalog the players who are involved. I think when we think both domestically and internationally, it's clear that not every partner is going to do the same thing, but every partner has to do something. The first step, of course, is we need to talk more openly with our partners and our allies about the Taiwan challenge in particular, but I would also add what's happening in the South China Sea. Too often these conversations are happening in private. We need to start to talk about them in public, and that forces, I think, hard political decisions both here and abroad about what we're actually willing to do to push back on Chinese ICAD behavior. It's vital that we have at least some centralized decision-making in our government about this. In the Cold War, we had individuals at the National Security Council specifically tasked with combating these sorts of activities. Those people don't exist anymore and haven't for some time. The other thing we have to do, obviously, is resource it, where Congress comes into play, and then hold the administration, regardless of who's in power, accountable for those decisions and allocations. But all of that starts with identifying what is our desired end state in the region, and frankly, multiple administrations haven't really done that very well.
Thank you. If I could just briefly, as the senior Democrat on defense appropriations, we are investing a massive amount in shipbuilding, in networks, in long-range fires, in next-generation fighters, all with an eye towards Indo-Pacific engagement and with China as our pacing threat. If the new national security strategy significantly deprioritizes the Indo-Pacific and the PRC threat, I'm concerned about whether or not our allies will take that as a signal that we are significantly disengaging or underinvesting. I recognize that border security and ending the scourge of fentanyl and drug trafficking in our country is a priority for national security. But I think the fight of this century the definitional fight for free societies is with the PRC and the CCP. And I hope that we will be able to work together to find bipartisan ways to engage, to invest in Taiwan's resilience, and to build up the alliances that will make us successful. Thank you, Senator.